Hi everyone. Dementia residents trying to make a phone call out from a dementia unit is an extremely stressful experience. Often there's 5 people in a queue wanting to make phone calls with one charge nurse, with one phone, with all the duties that she has on, doctor's rounds, medication rounds, dressings. Phone calls are at the bottom of the equation. Then even if she gets to make the phone call out for a resident, often the relative isn't available. Or worse still, they don't want phone calls except for emergencies. So then the person is pretty much alone, devastating. The best arrangement is, in the clinical notes, have your name, your number and time to phone noted there. So for example, if it's 6 o'clock each night to call, for mum to call, staff will go ahead with that as a relative's request. Best way altogether. It really works well. In fact, I had at the dementia facility I was working, there was one lady there and her son used to phone every single night at 6 o'clock. He lived in Singapore and she had very poor speech actually. Like, I don't know how he could understand her, but he was so patient and understanding and kind, that, and she would speak like for half an hour, in this, she was understanding him. She'd had a stroke as well on top of the dementia. She was understanding him, but it was extremely difficult to know what she was saying. But he'd just, as long as it took, he'd phone up mum each night and speak to her. He was a high-profile business guy, very wealthy, and he was a bit of a benefactor of the unit and used to, dish out hundreds of dollars for staff dinners for the staff to go off and have, a night out, basically, a meal out and pay for everything. Incredible. And also, she was very well dressed. I mean, they were big landowners in Canterbury, which, there's a lot of wealthy people here. Very well dressed, Chanel No. 5. No one in a dementia unit has Chanel No. 5 perfume. You never know where it's going to go. So anyway, she had all the treats, the treasures, a wealthy son and a kind, wealthy son who used to ring her every night at 6 o'clock. And wherever she was, we'd wheel her down, to the phone. So she could speak to him. That was perfect. So another example of phone calling out and how it helps. Oh yes, there was another guy. He was the detective. His wife was very good. She had an open line, so the staff could phone anytime. Fantastic. He was such a lovely person and so helpful to everyone. He sometimes got 2 phone calls a day, which nobody else seemed to get, because he was, always helping the sick elderly ladies, which helped the staff. So, and the best arrangement is, okay, I'll just explain the arrangement of how to set up the phone calls. So every patient or resident has a set of clinical notes, okay? Hard copy. There's also a whole, everything's online as well as it happens, but in the hard copy, the file where all the doctor's notes and everything's kept and the initial assessments, etc. In that hard copy, that file, the front page is where the contact phone number of the relative is kept. So the name, the number, and then under that, any particular requests. So if you say, can call anytime, or available at 6 o'clock, or phone me 6 o'clock each night, that will be noted in the front page of the patient's file, and that will be recorded and reported at the changeover staff duty times, so that everyone will get to know it. And also when they're doing their notes, it will be in the computer and in the hard copy, and the carers will also get to see that. Medical staff, carers, nurses, everybody, so that the system's set up. It's good to set up systems in a dementia unit which are habitual, because then staff will follow that. They know what's coming up, they adjust to it, etc. Whereas if it's sort of random phone calls here and there, it can very often go right down to the lower priority list. because, you know, the staff are never sure when they ring if you indeed you are going to be there. And it's always a bit of a setup. I mean, for the person to be able to hold the phone even sometimes is an issue. You know, they need to have support under their elbow. Either if they're able to stand at the nurse's station, they can put their elbow on the nurse's station and hold their phone up to their ear, or if they're sitting down, you can bring in a table and then lean them forward so that they can put their elbow on the table to be able to relax their arm. You know, just to sit and, we take it for granted, being able to hold up our arm to our ear and hold it there for 10 minutes for the phone is a simple equation. But if you've got an arthritic shoulder, or you forget that you're even on the phone, you need to be set up in positions so that you can make the phone call with relative ease as much as possible. And when phoning, it's a good idea to just sort of speak loudly and clearly as well, because dementia units are very rowdy places, and it can often, if the person is kept in the lounge, they actually can't hear you. That's another problem. Even if the call goes through, the nurse comes in, gives you the phone, and you're in the middle of the television lounge, you know, TV blaring, and you can't hear a thing. So really, the person needs to be walked to another quieter place. That can take another 5 minutes if you're a slow walker, and nurses don't have time for that. So that's why it's good to set up the time, say 6 o'clock each night after dinner when it tends to be more quiet, and then you can ask the nurse, just say, oh, please, you know, can my mother be walked to the other lounge area? So after dinner, rather than going to the TV lounge, after dinner they can take her to the quiet lounge nearby and have the regular phone call there. So it's all set up. You know, she's got the phone call, she's got the forearm support for the elbow, and, you know, everything's arranged. Some residents, I've only seen one resident who's actually had a phone in her room. She managed that for about a year. She was quite cognitive and articulate. After the year, she lost the ability, but it does take a lot of focus to be able to look at the names on the wall and then punch those numbers into the phone and get the whole thing coordinated. Most people don't manage it. And also with cell phones as well. Some people manage cell phones for the first, you know, few months. That's another subject. That's a whole subject, actually, cell phones. We'll do another video on that. But please, with the dementia residents, just to bear in mind these aspects, that if you can keep an open line for the resident, have your name and phone number noted at the front of the charts when you're available for the calls, and just set it all up in that way, then it's much easier for the resident, the staff, and the whole unit actually. So thank you for that. Now this is the resident's voice from a dementia unit and the resident's rise from a dementia unit. Both books I've written. So all these techniques and tips are in the epilogues at the back of both books, as in the videos that I've been doing here on YouTube. But the books are good because it's at your fingertips, so to speak. It's all categorized and easy to read. And the first half's a novel, which is Days of Our Lives in a Dementia Unit. And, you know, the trials and tribulations that these dear, wonderful dementia residents have to go through in such places. So it just gives you the broader context of where this work's come from, and the research and work that I've done, and how it's come to pass that I've been able to work out all these techniques with my physiotherapy background for these books and YouTube videos. So thank you for your likes and your looks, and please pass on to people, you know, family, friends, neighbours affected by dementia, or parents of your friends that you know need some help. Thank you.